Good evening. We will now start our public comment section of the board meeting. Marla Sachs, please come forward. Can we please, is that better? Okay, thank you. Marla Sachs. Regarding FOIA and post-prom.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
My name is Marla Sachs, and I am here today because I am Can you hear me now? Okay, I can't hear now. Can I hold this out of you? Okay, can you guys hear me now? Okay, good. I am openly requesting a copy of Freedom of Information Act of all documents that relates to the cost of prom and post-prom. Okay. Also, I want to, this is directed to the school board. Can you tell me why or whose ideal it was to make prom so very expensive that many students were not able to attend because the cost was too high? Number 3.
Can you speak a little louder?
I want to know why prom costs so much money that some parents could not afford to send their kids to prom. My first question was to get a Freedom of Information Act for all the costs and everything relating to prom. I want a detailed report. I just don't know where the money went. I also want to ask the question, if prom, post-prom was here at the school, is there a cost for that? To rent the gym or wherever the prom was, is there a cost to rent the gym? Because I don't understand where the money went. If prom is free, these kids come to the school every day, why was it a cost to come to post-prom? Is that cost included in the prom fee? That's what I want to know. Okay.
Thank you.
No, I'm not done yet.
Okay.
Not done yet.
Got a few more seconds.
Okay. Hurry up. Also, I asked this question last year. What is the rule or the policy for kids that have to go to the bathroom and still cannot go and have to, their parents, they have to call their parents and say, can you please call so I can go to the bathroom? I want to know what the policy is. And lastly, I want to know how the school board looked into the grading system. Why do all teachers use a different grading system? Why do we use weighted and why do we use graded percentage? I want to know why we don't have a grading system that's conducive for everyone to use. Why is it so different across the board? Everybody has their own thing that they do. Why is that? That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Michelle Anderson, School Safety.
Good evening.
Good
My
evening.
name is Michelle Anderson. I'm the mother of 4 children in the district. I have 2 sons at the high school and 2 currently at Crete Elementary, one of which will be attending the 6th grade center next year. My background is in finance and I'm currently working towards my MBA. I would first like to thank you all for listening to our concerns. The superintendent has been very responsive to direct communication with him and has offered to meet with parents expressing concern for the safety of our children. I also understand that there are things moving in a positive direction as the students were addressed today regarding consequences of violence in the school. I've met with some parents and community members, and we are committing ourselves to being proactive and working in conjunction with the administration. I would offer myself to overlook some finances to see if I can help with any budgeting issues to increase security at the school. As a mother, I was horrified when I overheard a conversation between some students speaking about a student that brought a gun to school. I addressed them regarding the incident, and they stated they weren't worried because the boy only had it for protection against another student that was bullying him. Why would we be that concerned for his safety? More alarming is that they say this is not an isolated event. It has happened more than once. Needless to say, every life is valuable, and we have got to get a resolution to this problem. I am suggesting that next year random locker searches be conducted several times during the year. If we need to get metal detectors in the school, regardless if they make the school look unsafe, it doesn't matter if it saves the lives of our children, and that we increase the amount of security guards on staff. I would also like to find room in the budget for a residency officer. I'm quite experienced in budgeting, and again will offer to help look at any finances in order to meet these needs. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Carol Millsap, email clarification. Emails public to board members?
Yes. I just wanted to make sure that the email that's listed on the website are correct for each of the board members. I did email a board member without any kind of response, so I didn't know if board members kind of pick and choose who they respond to and how I can get my email answered. And subnote, there was no cost for post-prom. All the money raised was by parents and no cost to kids.
Thank you. Next, Shannon Bruns, middle school band and director.
Good evening, and thank you for allowing me this opportunity to speak.
Good evening.
My name is Shannon Bruns. I'm here to speak as a parent tonight about the amazing middle school band program that is currently in place, and more importantly, to sing the praises of Mr. Samuel Hankins, the band director who is responsible for the success of this band. As a former proud member of the Crete-Monee Symphonic Band, Jazz Band, Symphony Orchestra, and Marching Band, but more importantly as a lifelong musician, I speak with experience about the impact that a director who is passionate about music can have on a group of student musicians. Mr. Hankins is that type of director. He has high expectations, and I'm a firm believer of high expectations. Children will rise or sadly fall to what we expect of them. It is Mr. Hankins' type of high expectation that I would wish all of my children's teachers to have of them. For the past 2 years that my daughter has been at CMMS, Mr. Hankins has successfully created a band that has qualified for state. That is an amazing feat for a band program that has splintered elementary programs. It is Mr. Hankins' love of music, his musical skill, and his high expectation that have created the success. If a football or basketball coach was able to bring their team to state, we would be fighting to keep them in district, and justifiably so. We should be doing the same with our fine arts program. For some of our students, music may become their life passion and life work. Unfortunately, Mr. Hankins has not had the opportunity to take this band to state due to a scheduling conflict at the middle school with the Washington, D.C. trip. My daughter has twice missed the opportunity to go with her band to state competition due to the schedule conflict. I'm not fully aware of the circumstances surrounding this conflict, but I do know that you cannot take a fraction of a musical group to a state competition. Anyone who's been a part of a musical ensemble knows that each part of a woodwind or a brass or a percussion section adds to the whole. You cannot take 2/3 of a band to a state competition. I would like to congratulate the band students who are present in attendance tonight for their success this year. They're sitting behind me to your right. All the way in the back, you guys want to stand up? No, they don't want to. Mr. Hankins is a passionate, oh, there we go. Mr. Hankins is a passionate, serious, and talented band director that we as a district should be fighting to keep at our middle school. I ask that you continue to support these teachers who make learning experiences positive for their children. Please help us keep a strong fine arts program at the middle school for our students and understand that Mr. Hankins is pivotal to this strong program. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, Cynthia Hudson, cost of prom, and update on lawsuit.
Good evening, members of the board.
Good evening.
Can you hear me? Okay. I won't be repetitive. I did want to know the cost. I wanted to FOIA the information for the prom information as well, because when I did call the person that was in charge of prom, the only cost I was given was that we're paying $800 for the DJ. $800 is, what is that, like 6 kids? So what are they doing with all the rest of the money? I heard that the post-prom was supposed to have been free, or it was coming out of the cost, or the PTO was paying for that. So I would like to know, and I would also like to FOIA that information, a breakdown of the $140 that the children was charged per person. They didn't even have a couple's discount for the prom. You know, normally if you're paying for your date and yourself, you're getting a discount when you're buying the two. They didn't have that option this year. I would like to know why. I would also like to know why were they being charged an additional $22 to park at the Shared Aquarium if they decided to drive. I'm quite sure at that time of the day on a Saturday, the Shared Aquarium would normally be closed. So why are we paying all this money if this place is going to be closed and no one is going to use the parking lot? I would also like to know if anyone from the board can give an update on what's going on with this lawsuit. Let us know what's going on. Let us know, you know, are we paying again for the same thing that it took us 10 years to pay for before? That's a waste of money. That's money that could be spent in the district on our children. I would like to know also if the parents can be given the information about all of the costs for the field trips, prom, senior activities and events well in advance. The Spain trips, the France trips well in advance, because to give us three months to come up with $3,000 for a Spain trip, how many kids can come up with, how many families can come up with that money? We're not giving our children the opportunities that they deserve. We're not giving our families the opportunities that they need to let their children be able to participate in all these wonderful events. So I would like to know if we can be given that information much earlier than we're given it, and as much information as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Jen Talent, Assembly at High School today.
Hello. I know there was an assembly at the high school today. I got about 4 minutes with my son after school, but from the gist of it, I know it pertained to discipline and the fighting. I was just wondering, is this any changes to the current policies that are in place, or was this a way to kind of get a spark lit under these kids' butts a little bit and let them know that we're just not going to be tolerating this anymore? Regardless, I think it was good that there was some kind of assembly and that this is being addressed with the kids, kind of like, you know, we're done with this. You're not going to act like this anymore. I think it's about time that we did that. So whoever initiated that, Thank you. But I just wanted to know if this was regarding any type of change, or if this is just a matter of, we're going to be enforcing things a little stricter. So if you can't answer me now, if somebody could email me, that'd be great.
Thank you. Next, Sandy Walters, race issues.
Good evening.
Good evening.
More black leadership is needed because black students will learn better from those they represent and can identify themselves with. This was a comment made in the minutes of the July 16, 2013 school board meeting. I was shocked at this because I've never thought anything about the color of my kids' teacher's skin and with regards to the ability to teach. When I got home, I repeated what was said at the meeting, and my son, having overheard me, said, "Mom, if black children learn better from black teachers, does that mean that white children learn better from white teachers and Hispanics learn better from Hispanic teachers? Wouldn't that be suggesting segregation?" Shameful is the word that came to mind at this kind of ignorant mentality. But after hearing comments that were made at the past couple of board meetings, it is clear that this same mentality is shared by many, as well as certain board members. This was evident when Mr. Cahan was unfairly let go as AD based on a 3-strikes you're out, and Mr. Schneider, who had been selected by an interviewing committee, having proven to be most qualified candidate, was not selected. Instead, Ms. Pete was hired, despite her not being nearly as qualified or experienced for the job. Unlike Mr. Cahan, who had shown the exemplary commitment to service to this district for 25 years, Ms. Pete didn't get the same 3-strikes you're out, but instead was allowed to bring this athletic department to shambles before finally being let go. Unfortunately, Ms. Pete wasn't let go without a cost to this district, a cost incurred by this board's bad decision-making, which now once again falls on the backs of the taxpayers, as her contract still needs to be paid through the end of the year. Unfortunately, the cost doesn't stop there, as there is also cost to our children who went unrecognized during her time as AD for the athletic achievements. The picture frames down the athletic hallway recognizing our all-conference athletes are empty, the banners hanging in the cafeteria aren't current, awards recognizing our scholar athletes weren't presented. It's a shame that the skin color was a hiring factor instead of who was truly best for the job. Then there was Mr. Dugan, our past principal, who under his administration, test scores were raised, AP enrollment was up, graduation rates were up, and his evaluation, he met or exceeded in all levels of performance, yet he was let go. Good teachers and administrators are continuing to be pushed out by this board to satisfy their clear agenda, which is the need for black leadership. This is not an agenda I agree with. I believe that we need great teachers, great administrators, the best of the best, regardless of skin color. We shouldn't be trying to fulfill some quota, but rather focus on the quality of our children's education, whether it be from a black or white teacher. As a parent with Christian beliefs, I've always taught my children to treat people the way they'd want to be treated. I've embraced diversity and have taught acceptance of all people, no matter what the differences may be. If my memory serves me, a certain board member once applauded me because of my acceptance. I was always proud that my kids didn't see color, but they saw only the person. I've been a parent volunteer for 16 years in this district and have been involved in many organizations from PTO, Booster, Education Foundation, just to name a few. I've helped with fun fairs, book fairs, concession stands, was also a mentor for Mrs. Sanders' Bugs program for 4 years. And yes, to a black boy. A shame I need to make this disclaimer. I do what I do for all kids. During the weeks prior to the election, there were those of us that because we didn't support the board and their ideas, we were being compared to as a Selma movement, and the campaign pathetically became a racial one. This is clear when, while campaigning in UP, there was someone that when asked why she was voting for her candidate, her response was, "He is for us." When asked if she meant the CO201 community, she said, "No, he is for UP, he is for us." The day of the election is what really spoke volumes. After our political signs were constantly allowed or encouraged to be taken down, it was sad but evident that we would have to babysit our signs for the lack of respect that was being shown for our candidate.
Mrs. Walters, I do
Yes.
need to ask you to end.
Okay, but it didn't stop there, as my character and that of my friends was slandered by Mr. Brown as we overheard him telling someone that we were nasty people and racist, and that others in his party told us we didn't belong there. Actually, the phrase used was "you people. You don't belong in our town." I ask, what is you people? White people? Then to follow, a young boy, walked past our car, but not before kicking the sign of our candidate. Shame on you, school board members, for allowing or passing on the hatred to our kids. It's clearer now than ever where the racism lies. Stop turning the tables. Your actions speak volumes.
Thank you. Next, we will have Allison Jordan. Teachers purposely grading sons' papers with Fs and not updating family access.
Good evening. Thank
Good
you for
evening.
allowing me to be here tonight. We got to talk about race because it's important, especially when you are a black person. My son came to me and was concerned because we see in the news there's a genocide against our black boys. It's not a secret. I didn't know that dialogue was happening in my son's mind until I saw his grades start to fall. I take accountability. I was hands off this year as junior. You're responsible. You take care of your grades until I started seeing a bunch of F's and D's. After that, I had a conversation with each one of his teachers. This is my position. This is what's happening in the world. My son said, I'm giving up. I see what's going on in the news. When he got his license and he was driving, I would say, text me when you get there. Text me when you leave. Text me when you go. It became exhausting to him, and he gave up. The result was bad grades. When I had that open dialogue with these teachers and we talked about the state of emergency in this country with black young boys, all of them except for one understood, they supported it, and they got on board. They were like, I get it. We have to talk for real. Let's not play games. After that, my son's grades went from D's to B's to A's. Why? Because he felt empowered and the teachers started to feel empowered. There was a commitment and a covenant made between those two to transform his life. I have one teacher who decided she wasn't going to be on board. And instead, she continued to give him F's after F's. Even after I helped him do one paper with a degree in journalism, I helped him, gave him a vocabulary builder, and she gave him an F anyway. I would have given him an F because I wouldn't have believed he wrote it, actually. So I need to know about a few things. What is the policy or agreement outlined in communications with parents, updating, the teachers updating the parents with the grades? I go to Family Access, the grades aren't updated. He went to her 2 times, she didn't have time to print it out that day. I escalated it, she was supposed to do it last week. She decides she's going to continue to go on and not do it so he can end with an F at the end of the term. I've read and I watched much of what has been said and discussed by supposedly well-meaning friends of the district. I'm appalled that our focus is not student-centered. Your teachers union and teachers came into the community with an agenda to replace a current school board rep without an apparent reason other than his opponent was the teacher's choice. I voted for M.O. Brown because I have seen him demonstrate that he cares for students, their parents, and teachers firsthand. He is the people's choice. I believe that a teacher should care about our child. I believe that when I called and I spoke to this teacher and she cut me off and hung up on me, went into the assistant principal's office where I was on speakerphone when he addressed her after she told my son she was getting fired anyway and told other students she was getting fired anyway and continued to give him F's. I'm thinking, is she sabotaging him? She's trying to go out with a bang? She jumps up from the office of that superior, disrespecting him, becoming insubordinate. What is the policy? What's the policy for this teacher? And she's still teaching my son, and he still got F's, and nothing's been updated in Family Access in 4 weeks. Should I believe a teacher cares when she refuses to
Ms.
update
Jordan,
my kid at
please,
Skyward?
Mrs. Jordan, can you please wrap up your comment? Thank you.
Before you come to my home and ask for my support, give my son your support. By coming to work every day, doing the best job for our kids. What does this mean to be teacher's choice? Someone who opposes teachers when they are wrong? Help my child.
Thank you. Thank you. That concludes our public comment portion of the meeting. Moving forward to our good news report, Talala Elementary.
Good evening. Good evening. At Talala, we have a number of new initiatives as well as continued some of our current programs. The first picture we have here we'll show you in a second. This is our PBS Family Night, and it doesn't give the best depiction of the number of families that attended that evening. We had over 100 family members attend. We were very excited. This is a continued program that we have. We serve pizza to those families that came, and our students, along with their other families, visited stations throughout the school to complete a school-wide PBIS matrix. And the one thing that we appreciated the most is that parents felt very welcome in terms of visiting the school and opening up the school for family access. We also continued the partnership established previously before my principalship with the Park Forest Police Department. The police department in Park Forest donates bikes monthly to our families, to our students at Talala. We have a second picture to show that as well. And they donate those bikes to our students. There is a raffle that students are involved in order to receive the bike, and it's either a boy or girl bike that we have. These bikes are presented at our monthly pep rally that we have at Talala. Just recently, we decided to enhance it a bit because we noticed that some of our students were getting pretty acclimated to the same routine that we have, so we hired a DJ. And the students really enjoyed having the DJ to come and announce the bike raffle. We also have students who receive recognition for great behavior, and that's all done monthly at our pep rally. We have a little clip that we will show you of the DJ that came and did a little performance, or DJ'd at our school. He had to stop a bit during the dancing, the line dancing, because some of our students needed a bit of instruction. And he, not only our students, I would say some of our Okay, so we'll stop. There's a little distorted. But essentially, the DJ had to give a couple of steps to some of our students because they needed a bit of assistance. And I asked him, was that an additional charge? Because I know we have to watch our money. So we didn't want him to charge additionally for providing some dance lessons to our students. We also have a new business initiative with our Park Forest Tall Grass Art Program. A local artist provided art classes to 20 of our students, grades 3 through 5 for 4 weeks after school, so we're really excited about that. And another initiative, we've also increased field trips at Talala. Our students, grades K through 5, attended a number of fantastic locations such as plays at GSU, Jack's Warehouse, Iron Oaks, in which they fostered team building with the 5th graders, Lincoln Park Zoo, Albany's Candy Factory, in which our IMSA students had a chance to not only sample candy, but to understand how gummy bears and Mike and Ike's and all that fun stuff is truly made from a chemistry perspective. So we were excited about that. I totally believe in taking learning not only in the classroom, but expanding that beyond the 4 walls, and that's what our students did. Lastly, we have a brand new initiative, which I'm keeping my fingers crossed to go over exceptionally well. This coming Friday would be our Grandparent Special Friends event at Talala. This is the first time that they'll have that. On a side note, we did have a grandparent to show up this previous Friday. She had the date confused, and we had to call her local senior Sunshine location to come back and pick her up. She said the Golden Girls were on their way. And she shared with me, she said, Ms. Johnson, some friendly, wise advice that this one day will happen to you. And she blamed her grandson for not giving her the proper date. And he said, how could that be? Because Ms. Johnson has left 100 school messengers with us and notices. So apparently there was just a slight mix-up. So we're really excited about that. We will have refreshments by Highway Bakery, which I'm very familiar with Ms. Gasparo from Monee PTO. That's a fantastic bakery in Chicago Heights. We also will have our grandparents and special friends visit our book fair at Talala, as well as classrooms for special presentations. My time is up. Thank you for yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Johnson, for your presentation. It's always great to see the awesome things going on in our schools. That's why we do have this section of our board meeting. I'm going to give our board members a chance to respond to your presentation, starting with Mr. Anderson.
It's all her fault. I won't blame it on you. Awesome presentation. I'm so thankful for the work that you're doing with our children and just how they are really just showing how much they enjoy what's going on in school. That's a good thing because we want our kids to feel happy and have fun in school and not just think of it as just a place to go to work. So I appreciate the work that you're doing right now. Thank you.
Mrs. Galbraith?
The new girl doesn't know what's going on here. Sorry. Is this working? Darn it. I think what you told us tonight was extraordinary. Every bite of that I took in it just made me feel so good to know that you guys are working so hard with the kids, with the community, and what a difference that's going to make. Thank you very much.
First, let me say that we miss you at Monee. And as you know, PBIS is very near and dear to me, so I'm very glad to see that you're doing things over there and that you're getting some family support, so that's fabulous. And good luck with Grandparents' Day. And you cannot have Mrs. Wallace for parking, sorry.
Same thing, Ms. Johnson. Great job. I was just thinking about your the idea that you came in, the situation you came into with the bleak hope of no PTO per se, but the fact that you've done so much with so little speaks volumes about the giant that you are. So thank you for the great work that you're doing. Continue.
Again, Principal Johnson, we just knew we picked a great leader to run the school over at Talala. And for you to get all of those kids on one floor, even though the video the videos per se was kind of distorted, getting all those kids, I kind of understood what they were doing. So a great success comes from a great leader, so thank you so much.
I've already shared my thoughts, but again, thank you. And I'm sure the kids had a great time, and I'm sure that they look forward to gaining those incentives. Only thing I would say is next time invite the board members. Some of us like to cut a rug or two. And they look like they were having a lot of fun. So I would love to have been a part of that and all the other wonderful things that are going on at Talala. Thank you, Mr. Cunningham.
Thank you. I'm very blessed to be the superintendent of such an outstanding district that has outstanding administrators that spend extra time working on programs that just motivate our kids to do well in the classroom. I've been out to Talala many, many times, and I just see excellence every time I go out there. And I just thank you for that hard work and the hard work of your teachers, because they spend extra time, and they are hard. They're great motivators out there. I'm very happy to see the good work that's going on there and in our other schools. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to call our meeting to order. Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Anderson?
Aye.
Mrs. Galbraith?
Here.
Mrs. Gasparo?
Here.
Oh, gosh. Okay. And Mr. Brown?
Here.
Secretary's aye. Dr. Hall?
Here, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'm going to sing My Country 'Tis of Thee one day.
Okay, do we have any board updates at this moment? Board updates. I would like to share that I just left Coretta Scott King Magnet School's exhibition night. This is a culminating activity for the sixth graders there. They put a lot of time and effort, months of preparation into presenting their projects. Their projects are centered around service in the community and then researching an issue or a problem and putting together an action plan to address that problem. And once again, they did not fail us in our expectations. Matter of fact, I think they really exceeded our expectations this year, and I'm really proud of the sixth graders there and just the wonderful work that's going on in the IB program at CSK. Moving forward to administrative updates. Ms. Hirsch, curriculum.
In February, the Board of Education approved the 2015-2016 school calendar, which included for the first time a weekly early out day for Crete-Monee High School. At that time on the calendar, we published a 1:15 dismissal time for those Tuesdays. Upon some further discussions with the regional office, we discovered that according to the State Board of Education rules, a school may schedule an early dismissal day if they either have a 300-minute instructional day or they've banked only 120 minutes. You have to have 120 minutes of instructional time banked. Currently, what they told us was that the high school banks 30 minutes per day. And that means that we need 4 school days in between each early dismissal day. Well, there are exactly 4 days in between each early dismissal day. So if we were to have an emergency day, we would not be banking enough time to have the early out. So I spoke with Dr. Harden, and he and his team sat down and problem solved this. And we figured the best way to go about this was to come up with a schedule where we would have 300 minutes of instructional time on those early out days. So they gave us a revised student schedule for that day so that that day has exactly 300 minutes of instructional time. What that does is it changes the dismissal time from 1:15 to 1:21 in the afternoon, so it's a change of 6 minutes later, plus their proposed schedule reduces the passing periods to 4 minutes. I had several conversations with the high school administration about the impact of a 4-minute passing period versus a 5-minute passing period, and they assured me that some things would be in place. First of all, our 2-minute signal would still happen. They plan to track the tardies on those days to make sure that we're not seeing a spike in tardies, and that if that were to happen, our option would be to push the dismissal time back a little bit further so that we could have the 5-minute passing periods. But if we do that, it shortens our professional time at the end of the day. So we are going to attempt our 300-minute day with our 4-minute passing periods. And if we run into problems, I will, of course, bring that back to the board with a recommendation that we bump the time back to 1:30 to keep the 5-minute passing periods.
Ms.
Thank
Hirsch,
you.
Sure.
how will you track so that we can utilize this information for data gathering? How will it be tracked?
Well, it will be, we'll have a weekly day. So what we'll do is on those Tuesdays, they'll be looking at tardies and comparing them to any other day of the week when.
So through attendance.
Through attendance, right.
Have we ever tried this process before, or did we do any benchmarking, or we just kind of going to do a pilot here?
The process of the 4-minute passing period?
Yes.
We haven't tried it before. Dr. Harden, when we talked about this, he said, with the 2-minute signal, what generally happens, and if you've been in the high school during passing periods, when that signal goes off, the pace picks up and the kids move a little bit faster. So he anticipates that with that same 2-minute warning, the pace will pick up, students will move faster, and they will be on time to class.
Are you actually going to call it 2-minute warning?
That's what he called it.
Okay,
I don't know.
I like that. 2-minute warning. Okay, thank you.
Well, I've already expressed my concern with taking a minute off of passing time. I expressed that already with the superintendent and Ms. Hirsch. My concern is that we will see a lot of running students in the hallways and possibly making them a little unsafe, considering the size of the high school. I still hold that concern, and I will be looking forward to the data that lets us know if this is working correctly. But I trust my administrators, but I just want to make sure that you all know I still have that concern.
And that was our conversation was I don't want to create a tardy issue, an unsafe situation. So we do have Plan B, always have a Plan B. We do have a Plan B if we run into difficulty that we can make an adjustment.
What's the time frame for, let's just say, if you had to fluctuate to a Plan B? How long will you allow the lapse or the time? What's the time frame?
We haven't actually discussed that. I would imagine since we're doing this weekly, if we monitor it during that first month of school, I think we'll have a pretty good idea.
Okay. So the first
What will the effect be on busing if we have to change this at a later date?
Well, I'm sure Ms. Spence can respond to this. I mean, we're only changing it by a matter of a few minutes, and it doesn't interfere with any of our other routes, so it shouldn't really have an impact other than just bumping things back about 5 minutes.
Right. I mean, using the early out actually helps if we do it, because then they're releasing early, and the earlier the high school gets out, the better it is for the other 2 tiers. If it ends up that we have to take it back to what it was before, it'll just, there's really no change. They just go back to their regular schedule.
On that note, I guess it's not a hypothetical situation. It's more realistic. If we go back and find out that this is not working, but we had several kids was documented as being tardy, what do we do with those infractions?
It's a good question. I think one of the things that we talked about was we have to be a little lenient at the beginning if we see that. I mean, we have to respond as to the situation as it happens. And if we're seeing, obviously if we're seeing a lot of tardies, we can, again, bump this back. We only need to bump it back about 9 minutes.
Okay.
So I think we can respond relatively quickly, and I think as long as we're flexible and understanding that that's what the situation is, that it's due to a 4-minute passing period, I'm sure that the high school is not out to be punitive if it's something we've put in place that isn't working for students.
Okay. One of the things that we thought was very, very important is to get the input of the high school administration. And that input says they believe that they can do it in 4-minute passing periods. And we felt like it was important that we collect the data. So we're going to collect the data. The high school administration will look at it, and we will take care of the kids. If there's a problem, we have a Plan B, and we'll move to Plan B.
Plan B is to turn off your phone.
Thank you.
Well, I think it's good that you all, and I don't want to keep at this, but I think it's good that you do have a grace period. Students need to have time to adjust to the changes. I would like to know how long that grace period will be specifically, and will that be clearly communicated to teachers and basically all staff to make sure that we are not being punitive when it comes to tardies, particularly during that grace period. Final comments, board members?
Again, I do expect you guys, you don't have to have all the answers now, but I would not want a kid to try to take advantage of this process. Habitual kid that's being late, say, hey, here's an opportunity. So we need to watch that, okay? All right.
Okay, thank you. Student Affairs, Mrs. Spence.
Thank you. The following Freedom of Information requests have been received. I have reported the results and status of those requests as follows. The first one, Mr. William Morgan, electronic request received on April 14th. The request is for documentation sufficient to determine the names of Crete-Monee school board members as well as their tenures since the year 2000. A response to this request was sent on April 20th. The response included the requested documents. Number 2, from Ms. Brenda Messick, electronic request received on April 14th. The request was for a copy of the PowerPoint presentation that was delivered to the Finance Committee on April 13th by Steve of PMA Financial. A response to this request was sent on April 21st. The response included the requested documents. Number 3, Ms. Doris Harmon Warren, electronic request received on April 14th. The request was for a copy of the PowerPoint presentation that was delivered to the Finance Committee on April 13th by Steve of PMA Financial. Also, copies of any invoices that the PMA group has submitted for payment to the district during the current school year, fiscal year 2014-2015. A response to this request was sent on April 21st. The response included a partial fulfillment of the requested documents. Number 4, Ms. Charlene Roche of Smart Procure, electronic request received on April 15th. The request was for an electronic record of purchase orders dated 2010-01 to current, including purchase order number or equivalent, purchase order date, line item details, line item quantity, line item price, vendor ID number, name, address, contact person, and email. And correction, it was dated January 1st, 2010. A response to this request was sent on April 17th. The response included the requested documents. Number 5, Ms. Tammy Burnham, electronic request received on April 15th. The request was for a copy of all communications, including emails between Kimberly Sanders and Nathaniel Cunningham between March 25th to April 14th, 2015. A copy of all communications, including emails between Maurice Brown and Nathaniel Cunningham, March 25th to April 14th. A response to this request was sent on April 21st. The response included the requested documents. Number 6, Ms. Doris Harmon Warren, electronic request received on April 19th. The request was for copies of any invoices that the PMA group has submitted for payment to the district during the last school year. A copy of the PMA financial contract with Crete-Monee School District. A response to this request was sent on April 22nd. The response included the requested documents. Number 7, Ms. Tammy Burnham, electronic request received on May 1st. The request was for the total number of administrators that are in 201U. A response to this request was sent on May 5th. The response included the requested information. Number 8, Ms. Tammy Burnham, electronic request received on April 28th. The request was for, please provide a total number by school, by date, of all complaints of teachers bullying of students from August 1st, 2010 to February 1st, 2015. A response to this request was sent on May 5th. There are no documents responsive to this request. Number 9, Ms. Tammy Burnham, electronic request received on May 1st. The request was for the total dollar amount spent on teachers' professional development in the last 4 years. The status of this response, a response to this request was sent on May 8th. The request was considered unduly burdensome. Number 10, Ms. Tammy Burnham, electronic request received on May 6th. The request was for how many total students have been expelled from February 1st, 2014 to May 6, 2015. A response to this request was sent on May 13th. The response included the requested information. Number 11, Ms. Laverne Hardison, electronic request received on April 27th. The request is for a breakdown of student performance versus teacher evaluation rating, broken down by subject and teacher rating. For example, for the subject of math, number of students with D's or F's in math, and the number of math teachers who are rated proficient or excellent. How many African American guidance counselors has the district hired at the high school? Please list by school year with the number hired and the number let go each year. How many minority versus Caucasian teachers have been hired in full-time teaching positions in the district? How many are let go each year? How many teachers have been terminated for poor job performance in the last 10 years, minority versus Caucasian? How many teachers received a below-standard evaluation in the past 10 years? And finally, how many students have received an ACT score below 20? How many students have a GPA of 3.0 or better? The requester and the public body mutually agreed to an extended deadline for a response. A response to this request was sent on May 14th. The request was considered unduly burdensome and would constitute the creation of a new record. Lastly, number 12, Ms. Laverne Hardison, electronic request received on April 27th. The request was for, over the last 5 years, what is the breakdown of students, minority versus Caucasian, who have been sent to the Monee Education Center, the alternative program for the district? The requester and public body mutually agreed to an extended deadline for a response. A response to this request was sent on May 14th. The response included the requested information. That concludes the FOIA request for the month of May.
Thank you. Business update, Dr. Williams.
Good evening. Today we have with us the district architect, DLA Architects, and they're here to present the conceptual design for the middle school addition. At this time, I would invite everyone on the stage to take a seat in the audience for the presentation. While everyone is moving in that direction, I'd like to let the audience know that DLA's philosophy is form follows learning. And this means that they believe that our district's educational philosophy should guide the design of any project. And that will be evident as they present their conceptual design. Today we have with us one of the founding partners of DLA Architects, Mr. Dwayne Lutzow. We also have with us the project lead, Mr. Brian Scully. And with that, I will turn it over to Mr. Lutzow.
Thank you very much. We certainly appreciate the opportunity to be here today to present our update, and thank you for the opportunity. It has been a little while since we've last talked, since our interview, and I again want to thank you for trusting us in your children's future. This is a very exciting project and one that we want to make sure I get the right direction here. There we go. Get to the right direction. Get to the the point of moving forward with the transformation of your schools. I want to compliment the faculty, the staff, and the administration. We have really had an intensive amount of meetings over the last few months. There's a lot of work that has to be done on this type of project, and they've really helped us tremendously in that process. As Dr. Williams had said, form follows learning is something that we really truly believe in, and our process is really that the architecture should inspire learning. And to that end, we have spent a lot of time with all the stakeholders on this project. We have done an extensive amount of surveying, which is part of our Form Follows Learning and 21st Century Education process. And what we found from that is that your teachers are very progressive in the way they want to teach. The spaces that they are, unfortunately, these buildings are dated, some dating back into the 1950s, so that really it hinders what they're trying to do with the opportunities with the students. But they are looking at opportunities for cooperative learning. We're looking at teachers wanting to work in groups and cooperatively teaching students in different types of environments. The delivery method is also a project-based learning method that allows us to bring students together, have them work in a very cooperative manner, teaming together. We're finding that active learners are the ones that are learning the best. And so it's no longer the sage on the stage trying to teach, but the students taking charge and having the teachers become the facilitators of their process. And so teachers and students teaching students are also a very viable part of what we're trying to achieve. Visible learning was a very important part of this, as well as future-proofing our schools to make sure that they are adaptable, flexible, and allow for the type of learning environments that we're trying to achieve. And so, how do we know we're on track? Well, basically, they've told us. The surveys that we have up in the upper right-hand corner is part of the survey that we brought forward to all of the stakeholders involved in the project. And they were very responsive, and we've gone through a tremendous amount of analysis on that, which we will not go through today. But along with meeting with the staff on a number of occasions and working towards, focusing towards the future of the schools, we also asked the students what they thought. And we found that to be very enlightening and very important to the process. Our team met with over 70 students representing both 6th grade and the middle school. And their information was very, very informative in telling us that they do want to have visible learning. They do want to see nature as part of their educational process. That sunlight is very important to the educational process. These are all mirroring what we're hearing from the teachers as well. And so it's a very interesting and great process that we've gone through along the way.
And so the question may come up then, the teachers are telling us what they believe and the students are telling us what they believe, but where are the facts? Have there been studies done that really show that some of what we're talking about actually pays off in the classroom? And the answer is yes. We do a lot of research, and that research includes things like color. One thing that a lot of the students told us was that they want more color, they want some vibrancy in the building. And for example, this is a study done by PPG and Glidden in conjunction with Dr. Heinrich Freeling, the German Institute of Color Psychology, basically studying the effects of color in classrooms. And at different ages, they find that different students have different preferences in color. And so these are just a couple of screen captures from some of that study, basically saying that depending on the age, it kind of leads us into where kind of that color palette goes for the school, and they broke it down by middle school as well as elementary school, high school, etc. And project-based learning, as Dwayne had brought up, it's interesting, the Buck Institute for Education, which helps teachers kind of put together curriculum and lesson plans for project-based learning, has an entire webinar series on IB, including IB PYP and IB MYP. And so this is just, again, another screen capture from an hour-long webinar that we've watched that talks about how project-based learning is crucial to the IB program and the idea of building international learners and cultural people through the program. Even down to furniture. Steelcase, their education department, has done myriad research on classroom and how it's set up. Nobody wants to be in a desk anymore. Nobody wants to be at a desk with the table attached and we can't move. I think all of us know that the kids of today, they learn much differently than we did. They're used to sitting in large sofas at a coffee shop or hanging upside down as Dwayne's daughter does when she reads books. And the idea that Steelcase is looking at is how can we break the classroom down into different modules without building a bunch of walls and creating spaces. How can we take a more typical classroom and find furniture that is comfortable for all children so that they can do their best, they can be comfortable while they are learning. And they have hundreds and hundreds of pages of research that we go through, and we have Steelcase into our office quite often, showing us the latest and greatest and sharing that information from all the case studies that they do around the country. This is an interesting quote we thought from Preparing 21st Century Students for Global Learning, Educator's Guide to the 4 C's by the National Education Association, basically saying collaboration is essential in our classrooms because it is inherent in the nature of how work is accomplished in our civic and workforce lives. 50 years ago, much work was accomplished by individuals, working alone, but not today. Much of all significant work is accomplished in teams and in many cases global teams. If that is an international baccalaureate, I'm not sure what is. It's talking about working in collaboration, having that international global team, and the goal of our architecture is to provide the opportunities to have that collaborative space for the students. And then our experience. Every year we send several people to the Harvard Graduate School of Education for their learning environments for tomorrow. And this is kind of what goes on there. I'm not going to get into exactly what this is, but there's a person that's taking notes on the entire 3-day presentation and workshop and creating these collages. And some of the things we talk about there are studies on natural daylighting, 20 to 26% improvement in test scores in classrooms with maximum natural daylighting by the Heshog-Mahone group study that was done in California. Greenness, in other words, finding these views to nature that Dwayne talked about, and studies that show that having these passive views to the outside enacts what they call their a passive focus, where you can reset instead of being tasked with focusing on the sage on the stage, as Dwayne said, being able to kind of reset by getting that quick glance outside. And it's something that we do unconsciously, but something that is almost necessary deep down in our brains. So then how do we tie all this together? And basically what we have here, and I apologize, I do apologize, there's an error on this slide. There should be more red writing on the right-hand column, but this is a matrix showing the difference between the current setup at CMMS and the final design that we've come up with, and kind of what is happening to the school, what you're gaining. Some examples going from 30 classrooms with 6 science labs to 43 classrooms with 8 science labs, adding a reading specialist room, adding a speech room, adding more storage to the band room, adding a special education grouping of rooms that allows for changing OT, PT, several classrooms, office, and observation all in one space instead of spread out throughout the building. More computer labs, more seating in the LRC with more dedicated computer lab space, expanded cafeteria, expanded administration that allows for a secured entrance, and you'll see all this coming up. More professional development spaces instead of the traditional faculty lounge, what we're calling professional development spaces where teachers can come out of their classrooms and have a home base that is actually combined with several other teachers to promote that collaboration, not just between students, but between the teachers as well. More presentation spaces, actually going back to what was said about Coretta Scott King and the 6th graders having their final presentations, their exhibitions, creating spaces that are specifically for that sort of learning on display. And then a new music room as well. So this is the overall floor plan. I'll go through this very quickly because we have some enlarged plans. The existing CMMS is the larger rectangle that you see on the left-hand side there, and the addition would be toward the right-hand side. On the far right of the screen is the second floor, so the addition would be a two-story space. The quick overall walkthrough of the building, coming in through the main entrance, you see we have, and we'll show this a little bit larger later, a flip of the computer lab and classrooms and the administration space to create an actual secured entrance. Instead of entering the building and going to a security desk when you're already in the building, actually having a lockdown vestibule where a visitor would have to come in through the main office and get buzzed through into the school. Continuing around the building, if we work our way around in a counterclockwise motion down to the music wing, where we will expand the band room, add a music room and professional development spaces. Potential reworking of the little theater, expansion of the cafeteria down at the south end. You see the orange in the middle there, that is the LRC, which would become the hub of the building and where we spiral off our addition and everything else from the building. A remodeling of the LRC to expand that space. Potential expansion of the locker rooms at the south end, and then the addition coming off to the right. And we'll get into some of those blow-ups now. So this is the enlarged first floor plan of the addition. And what you see on the plan here is 8 classrooms on the first floor, one of them being a science classroom. In the center where the red space is, that would be that special education grouping of rooms that I spoke of with 2 classrooms, a changing room, a sensory room, the office space, and OTPT. And what's nice about this is for some of the students that have special needs, when they're spread out throughout the building at the moment, if there is a situation where a student needs to go to the sensory room or has to go to a changing room, right now they're kind of taken out of a space and maybe around the building. By putting it all together in one space here, we allow for maybe a quicker calming of the student. If it's a situation where the student needs to be calmed down, go to the sensory room. If there has been an accident and there needs to be changing going on, we're not taking someone down the hallway and exacerbating the situation for both the student and the faculty. On the far right, there's the darker green. That would be an example of one of the professional development spaces. Seating for 10 teachers where they would have a home-based desk, storage in the middle, conference table, also a small kitchenette to serve as kind of a mini faculty lounge, if you will. On the far right of that is a rotunda space. This is a small presentation space for maybe half a class up to a class to do presentations out in the hallway, put their learning on display. At the left side, as we come up to the orange for the library, you'll see there's that tan space in the middle that has the vertical lines going through. That's actually an amphitheater space. And the idea of this is the exhibition space for the building. Talking about putting learning on display, you'd have amphitheater seating that could allow for up to 60 kids, so basically 2 classes at a time, to be sitting in this space for guest lecture, student presentation, in between classes as actually just kind of a quick hangout spot. Something that was beaten into our brains by the students is they want some what they call chill spaces. And these chill spaces they just need 2 minutes during the day to kind of collect their thoughts, compose themselves. I think each of us like to get up from our computers and walk away for a few minutes, and I think students are the exact same way. They're just younger, and they get fried during the day too. And I think they need that opportunity to walk away for a few seconds. And scattered throughout the hallway, you also see some of these setbacks from the hallway with what we have is soft seating, lockers that are set back, which allows to combine those spaces so that you would have the ability to go to your locker, but not have all the students jam in at one time on top of each other. There's some seating, there's some area there, so you're not in the actual circulation path at the time, but you can be near your locker, maybe taking a seat while 10 other kids are at their locker, and then the next 10 kids go up there. So there isn't that crush to be on top of each other to get to your lockers. Whilst class is in session, that's also a space where teachers can send out students in small groups if they are breaking down into small group projects, things like that. There's also 2 small group learning rooms in the light blue on either hallway, and that would be a space where a teacher could send maybe 4, 6, 8 kids that are, again, breaking down into smaller teams for whatever the lesson plan is for that day, or maybe there's an ongoing research project that has to be left up. But we have glass around those spaces, so that learning is on display for the kids walking down the hall as well as for the kids that are in there looking out. It's almost that learning through osmosis. You see what's going on. Maybe it's a 6th grader looking at what an 8th grader is doing. There's some excitement, and there's some buy-in there for your full 3 years. and then on the left side, the LRC, which we'll show a little bit later. On the second floor here, again, just kind of stacking the classrooms. So again, we have 8 classrooms. On the bottom left in that pinkish area, that's the new art room. The art room will be on the second floor with glass on the south side, so basically vistas out to the south, and glass on the north side looking into the amphitheater. So it's basically art on display. The classroom is actually on display, a crow's nest, if you will, looking out over the amphitheater. Next to that, the large light blue space is a project space. What we're finding is that with International Baccalaureate and with 21st Century Learning, there's a lot of multifunction spaces that are needed because sometimes those projects are going to change. Sometimes what is done from hour to hour differs greatly depending on what's happening with the curriculum that day. So that space would be seen as a flexible space for testing. It could be used as a computer lab when you have testing weeks. If it's during project time, it could be used for your project space or, like I said, leaving an experiment up for a significant amount of time. So that provides that opportunity to have teachers come out and rent out that classroom or that area. Perhaps students use it on a daily basis. Quickly go through kind of that office flip that I mentioned. So you'll see the secured vestibule. It's grown out to where your brick canopy is right now. We flipped reception and office to the south side so that using that much longer wall space, we can have a door allow someone to be buzzed in, checked in there, and then queued out into the hallway, into the school proper. To gain back that computer lab that we lose, we actually gain it back on the north side, and it gets a little bit larger by taking that angled room, and we use the rest of that space for an additional classroom. The yellow you see there is the old security desk, which would not be needed out in that hallway. The idea is we are charged with putting together a school that is an IB school, not just an IB addition. And so what we're doing is where we can, going back into the existing building and finding spaces where we can have learning on display, where we can have some of these setback areas for students to engage socially and educationally. So we take that space that's vacated by the security desk and then and do something there to allow maybe for a display or for seating or something that may be going on this week. This week at CMMS, as you're coming through the front door, that might be kind of nice to see. And at the bottom, you see another professional development space there, another 10 teachers, conference area, kitchenette, storage, etc. This is the renovated LRC layout. You see what we've done by taking away the teacher's lounge and breaking the teacher's lounge out into far more professional development spaces. We're able to create more seating for the LRC. We actually have to take into account that we're also going to be gaining stacks from the 6th grade center. So we have to make room for more books, more students. With this layout, we can actually have 2 full classes at a given time in the LRC proper, and then a 3rd class in the computer lab, which takes over the old custodian's office, the O&M office. We leave the 2 bathrooms actually in the library because you have bathrooms there. We can never have enough bathrooms, so we'll leave them in the library, and they can be used by all the people that will be in the library space. On the left side, the yellow there, that's the large commons area outside the gymnasium, a space that really right now is underutilized, and we see that as a space that can be used as cafe seating. Again, a teacher has a class they want to bring out there, maybe during lunch. We've talked about the logistics of how lunch works here. A suggestion was brought up again by the students of, when we're done eating lunch, if we have a seating problem, why am I still sitting at the table if I'm done with my lunch? And that's a great question if you ask me. So there's already, at times, supervision out in this area outside the lunchroom during lunch. So is there a possibility that when a student is done with lunch, can they be dismissed to an area of more comfortable seating, someplace where maybe they can get a jump on homework? Who knows? But perhaps we can alleviate some of that crowding in the cafeteria by actually, if you're done eating, why are you still sitting here? And I thought that was a great question someone brought up right away in one of our first focus groups. And then at that southwest corner, the music and professional development cafeteria, you'll see what we've done here is there was storage and offices within that band chorus room at the bottom. What we've done is taken them out of there, moved them up into where the former art room was. If you'll remember, we have the art room moving to the addition. By using the old storage space for the art room, we can move all that band storage up into that area, add a rehearsal room, and it allows us to bring in that whole 6th grade band that's going to be coming from 6th grade center, make space for their instruments, their uniforms, like I said, another rehearsal space, while also giving more space to the actual band room proper by taking the storage that was bleeding into there and pushing it up. Above that, a music lab, we're calling it, so basically a music room for traditional music class, but also has the infrastructure to be used as a lab if there's music technology in the future, or again, on a testing week, we need spaces to put computers, because right now that auxiliary gymnasium is being cut in half during testing weeks. And basically you can't have gym in that area while there's testing going on. So in order to not have to build another gym, we just create spaces where we can break out those computers and have this testing going on. So the infrastructure is there to use this room as a testing space. An additional classroom above that, and another professional development space. In the blue area over here, the cafeteria addition. We'd come out straight south from the cafeteria, create an actual vestibule. Right now, when the kids queue off the buses, they just walk right in the building. If it's raining, if it's snowing, if it's cold, that water and that air is getting straight into the building. There's no airlock. So we create an actual vestibule, some way to clean your shoes as you come in through traditional walk-off mats, and keep that cafeteria cleaner and more conditioned. And then within the addition space on the bottom, have a movable partition that allows that cafeteria space to be used as a multi-purpose room, perhaps after school, perhaps during the school day. Again, it gives some flexibility. We're not just putting a large space on the cafeteria that gets used 3 periods a day. That space can be partitioned off and actually used all periods of the day. So we get into some of the interior renderings. And this is the amphitheater space that I spoke of, the 2-story amphitheater at the addition. And you'll see we have a convenient staircase that runs adjacent to the actual seating area for the amphitheater. The idea of that staircase is we have our code-required fire stairs on either side of the building, but the true circulation of anybody is taking the shortest route, a straight line. Most of the students who are going up to the second floor are going to want to come through the doors that separate the existing building and go straight up to the second floor classrooms if that's where they need to go. So we create that space. It makes it a livelier space as we walk through there. You'll see we have a balcony looking into the amphitheater itself. So like I said, 60 kids could be sitting on that amphitheater watching a presentation that would happen on the old outside wall of the library. And up above to the right-hand side would be that art room. We'd envision even more glass than we're showing right now to put that art on display, whether it's being actually posted up as it's being done or watching the art happen from down below as it's going on. We kind of envision this as being a really exciting space and something that the kids are going to love, not just for actual learning and lecture, but kind of a hangout. And we would be using some of the space underneath those amphitheater seats for storage. So it's not kind of a wasted space. We actually would have building storage under there. Some of the storage for that special ed suite that happens behind there would actually bleed underneath there. So you use it in multiple ways. It's an example of that rotunda space at the opposite end of the addition. We have glass looking out to the east. Lower ceiling here, some soft seating. The wall that you can't see that would be kind of where we're standing would be a presentation wall. And we create passive or secondary security, if you will, or supervision by having the classrooms that are adjacent to that rotunda space, a large glass panel next to the door, glass in the door. So you might send students out there, but maybe you can't always have a teacher out there. But the idea would be that we have that secondary supervision going on by being able to look out through the classroom and see what's going on out in that space. And this would be one of these small breakout spaces outside the classroom I spoke of, where we have the lockers are in this setback L. You see some soft seating, some couches over here, and on the opposite side there would be one of those small group rooms with glass on either side. So again, the students are on display, the learning's on display, they're also being supervised at the same time. They're not covered up, you can see what they're doing. But again, this space, either of those spaces, the small group space or that couch area, could be used as another breakout space during the day, again, for dividing the students up as needed. You also see as we go through here, we're showing a lot of vibrant colors. Like I said, the research shows that vibrant colors promote learning, and the students are calling for it, the teachers are calling for it. Nobody wants to just be in 4 white walls, a white ceiling, and a white floor, and that's what we're trying to avoid. Another thing that you have that's fantastic and is underutilized is the existing courtyard at CMMS. And what we're proposing is creating an outdoor classroom space out of this courtyard. And it isn't that difficult to do. You have a large grass space right now, and we'd propose just a couple of planting beds. All the concrete you see on the bottom is actually already there. There are picnic tables out there. There's just not a lot. They're not being used very much. So we would propose having circular kind of outdoor classroom in the middle of the courtyard that connects to those picnic tables at the edge there. And you see with just some short knee walls, if you will, that allow for kids to sit on them or adults to sit on them, a few planting beds, a couple of logs, that space has become very vibrant. And I think there are a lot of teachers who would be dying to be able to use that space, some of these spaces either for science classrooms, to show planting, or to come outside, talk about a sundial in the center of that round room, or just to be outside, just to break it up a little bit, to again break up that day but keep kids engaged. I think they want to learn, and if they don't get bogged down by the same thing over and over again, they become engaged, they become better learners. So this is a little bit dark, but this would be what the building looks like. So we're at the north end here. You can see the main entrance on the right-hand side, and this would be the two-story addition coming off the library on the left-hand side. A lot of windows on the classroom spaces, and that's something we talked about with the administration a lot. And what we've heard from everybody is we want more natural light. We want some ventilation, too. We want to be able to crack a window open and get a breeze going through here if need be. So a lot of glass on the classrooms to allow in as much natural light as possible. This is right up against the existing building. Again, it's a little bit dark here, but that's the north end of the amphitheater space that you see kind of in the back there. On the south end, again, a lot of glass. We've got sunshades up on the south end and the southeast corner because we want to let in a lot of natural light, but we don't want to let in a lot of harsh heat. So the idea would be with the sunshades built in, we can shade a little bit of that glare coming in, help out the mechanical systems. They don't have to be as large, they don't have to run as often, but still allow in as much natural light as possible by doing a bit of a balancing act on that south and southeast corners of the building. And coming around the corner here, again, it's a little bit dark, but underneath that green paneling there, it's all glass, and that would be glass into the art classroom and the bottom of that atrium, or the amphitheater space, pardon me. And this is just kind of the overall view from overhead. You see the rotunda space at the end and how we tie back into the existing building. Now, there's been concern that this is a two-story building. Is it going to look odd on a one-story building? But your two gymnasium spaces right now are actually of a two-story height that we try to match with our addition. And your one-story space is actually very tall. If you've ever been up on the roof, you have parapet walls. Basically, the brick walls continue up past the roof for several feet, in some cases as much as 6 feet. So as we're tying our two-story building into your one-story building, it's really more like a two-story to a 1.5 story, and the scale really kind of works nicely, at least we think. So, and in summary, that is the design for CMMS. This.
Okay, that concludes our presentation. I want to thank our partners from DLA for coming out and for all the time that you spent talking to our teachers and our students and our finance committee. We appreciate all that you've done, and more is to come. Thank you very much.
Do we have any comments or questions? Board members? I'll just say that this is very exciting. Anyone who hears me in the education committee meeting knows that I say if we're going to spend money, spend it on the education, academics, improving academics for our students. I like that you all included them, their feedback, in your decision making. They're the ones that are going to be taking advantage of everything there, as well as the staff, so I thought that was very awesome. And I just look forward to creating this opportunity for our children and bringing the IB program to the middle school. I know that, it's change and there's some challenges, with any type of change, but I think it's what's best for our students. Thank you for the presentation. Okay, moving forward. We do have a need for closed session at this time in our meeting. May I have a motion for closed session for the purpose of discussing student discipline?
Moved.
Moved by Mr. Anderson.
Second.
Second by Mr. Brown. Secretary, please call the roll.
All right, Mr. Anderson,
Aye.
Mr. Brown,
Aye.
Mrs. Galbraith,
Aye.
Mrs. Gasparo,
Aye.
Secretary's aye, and Dr. Hall.
Aye. We are in closed. I would like to let the public know that we may be in closed anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour. If it is at any time, us perceiving that it will go past that, we will come out and let the public know. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
doesn't work.
You're welcome.
Excuse me, we'll be in closed session for approximately 45 more minutes.
Okay, so you can have a seat now and come back out. Okay, no problem. Thank you.
That's my hot water call. Boss asked me to go get some hot water.
Which would still be insane.
Just cannot keep yourself out of my chair.
Oh, you know what? I was doing a rain dance to wish you back.
We don't get to pay the big bucks. We're board members, and we need the chips and all the freebies that come with the project.
That's the Terry I know.
Okay, you guys owe us lunch. Huh? Well, this is once in a lifetime, and because we haven't had it for a whole year, right? Since we haven't had a whole well, I know that, but I'm saying even before you guys came, we really got down to it. I was in you get out the train. Oh, oh my gosh, that day, you talking about, no, it was here in the day, the one. The special meeting. Oh, you're the one that ordered it?
Thank you.
Well, you usually don't have them left over here, and now she has a child, we have a child, and we always take care back home to our kids. But see, now they're giving us.
Okay, may I have a motion to come out of closed session?
Moved.
Moved by Mr. Anderson.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Galbraith. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Okay, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Moved.
Moved by Mr. Anderson. Moved by Mr. Anderson.
Second.
Second by Mr. Brown. Any comments or questions? Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Anderson?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mrs. Galbraith?
Aye.
Mrs. Gasparo?
Aye.
And Secretary's aye. Dr. Hall?
Aye. At this time, I would like to acknowledge our donations. Thank yous. Principal Aaron Lane would like to thank Ms. Danula Kuiken for her donation of carpet squares to Crete Elementary. Principal Lane would also like to thank Mr. and Mrs. Forstall for the donation of Culver's gift certificates to the students at Crete Elementary. Mrs. Kelly Chesta, excuse me, would like to thank Mr. and Mrs. Girk for donating $500 towards the new playground equipment. Awesome. Principal Brian Main would like to thank Ms. Nayberg for her generous monetary donation towards their literacy night. Principal Brian Main would also like to thank Ms. Bonadonna for donation of cookie trays for the literacy night. He'd also like to thank first responders team for the presentation they gave to the 6th grade students. And, oh wait. Mr. Cunningham would like to thank Culver's of Crete and its manager, Camille, for assisting with the cost of individual servings of frozen custard to the entire staff for Teacher Appreciation Week. I know they look forward to that. Was it a discount? They gave a discount? Oh, great discount. Okay.
They charged us for like up to 800 and went up to 1,000, and they just did the rest of them themselves.
Oh, nice. Yes, everyone knows we did have our Teacher Appreciation Week, and we do appreciate our teachers. Thank you for all that you do for our students. All righty. Action reports, human resources. May I have a motion to expel student 2015A for the remainder of the 2014-15 school year, as well as the entire 2015-16 school year, but hold the expulsion in abeyance to have student 2015A administratively transferred to the Monee Education Center pending successful academic and social progress. Should student 2015A not perform successfully at the Monee Education Center, student 2015A's expulsion will take effect immediately without further action from the Board of Education. May I have a motion? Moved by Mr. Anderson.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Gasparo. Secretary, please call the roll.
Mrs. Gasparo?
Aye.
Mrs. Galbraith?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Present.
And Mr. Anderson?
Aye.
Secretary's aye. Dr. Hall?
Aye. Student Affairs, approval of resolution for hazardous bus routes. Mrs. Spence?
Thank you. This action is requesting the Board of Education to authorize the attached resolution for hazardous bus routes. With the addition of the new sidewalks in Monee, the hazardous bus route list has been updated to reflect the removal of Lilac Street to Monee Elementary as a hazardous route. This fits in line with our priority 4 of our strategic plan to ensure effective, efficient, and equitable use of capital and instructional resources. The community impact is the district is following Illinois School Code to determine what constitutes a serious safety hazard in accordance with rules and regulations adopted by the Illinois Department of Transportation. The financial impact is if these hazardous bus routes are approved, it would maintain the transportation reimbursement from the state, and our recommendation is to approve the attached hazardous bus route resolution as required by state law.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question? May I?
Let me do the motion.
Okay.
I'll open up for questions. May I have a motion to approve the resolution for hazardous bus routes?
Moved.
Moved by Mr. Anderson.
Second.
Second by Mr. Brown. Any comments or questions?
I just want to know, These hazardous bus routes, and it may not have anything to do with the bus, but the percentage or the distance the students are able, that they walk. So I noticed from the school to Western, there's no sidewalk, and the students are always in the street. Is that not hazardous from this school to Western Avenue and University Park? Is that not hazardous? Why haven't we looked
That's
at that?
considered walking along a roadway. I believe that we do have buses set up for that. I do know that there are a lot of students who prefer to walk. They do have a bus set up.
Okay, so they're choosing to.
Yes.
So just, I don't know if you guys, somebody can ask the question, because we clearly built a sidewalk that went from the 6th grade, I forget, where the intersection is now, through to the cemetery, that area over there. I just want to know, and I don't know if we're asking somebody to pay for that pavement. I think any distance, or at least to have a sidewalk, and I'm not for sure if I can remember. I know that it happened during our tenure, at least, that this sidewalk was paved, but I think it would be a decent service. It's okay, I guess, if they want to walk, but it's dangerous. Whether they want to walk or not is dangerous, and we should have a sidewalk that leads from the school. So even if we were to ask, if you look up how we managed to fund the sidewalk that was built just recently from the intersection of this school to the cemetery, if we could do some investigation on how that.
So you're asking us to check to see if there's a grant or something that we can work on to go from the high school down to that's Western. Is that correct?
Exactly.
We can
Whatever
look into
it's
that.
going to make for students to be safe, because it's very dangerous.
Agreed. I picked up students there, especially on Saturday mornings, when they're going to practice, when there are no buses available. Lots of kids walking there.
Thank you. Just curious.
Okay, any final questions or comments? Okay, Secretary, please call the roll.
I'm sorry. Mr. Anderson?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mrs. Galbraith?
Aye.
Mrs. Gasparo?
Aye.
Secretary's aye, and Dr. Hall.
Aye. Next, business. Dr. Williams, setting the public hearing date for permanent transfer of funds.
Yes, included in your packet is a recommendation to set a public hearing for the purpose of approving a permanent transfer from the Operation and Maintenance Fund to the Capital Project Fund. The Illinois School Code does allow for permanent transfers of funds, but they must follow a public hearing. So we are requesting that a public hearing be set. The funds would be transferred not only to support the capital projects that were planned for this past summer and approved in the current budget, but also to provide for the initial payments associated with the Facility Master's Plan. We've received our first bill from DLA, so.
Okay, thank you. May I have a motion to set the public hearing date for permanent transfer of funds?
Moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Gasparo, second by Mrs. Sanders. Secretary, please call the roll.
Okay, Mrs. Gasparo?
Aye.
Mrs. Galbraith?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Anderson?
Aye.
And Secretary's aye, Dr. Hall.
Aye.
Thank you.
So will you be the date to be set?
The date would be the next board meeting, June
16th.
Yes.
So we're declaring that that is the date for the hearing.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, any old business? Any new business?
Yes, ma'am. We have a couple of items for new business. I'd like to first start with a discussion about what happened at the high school this afternoon. Dr. Harden and myself, along with a staff meeting members, Dr. Harden wrote a letter, and I'll just go ahead and read that real quickly. Dear parents/guardians, today I called a student-wide meeting to discuss recent events related to building safety and climate. As the school year comes to a close, I feel it's important to emphasize and review our Warrior Way expectations: respect, responsibility, and safety. While we made great strides this year with regards to decreasing the number of incidents, there's still room for improvement. As early preparation for next school years, please join us in helping our students reflect on how they can positively impact their environment. This includes, but is not limited to, the appropriate use of social media, resolving conflicts, respectful language and communication, and exhibiting good character each and every day. The district administration and the Board of Education has communicated their expectations to us for acceptable building climate. We will work very hard this summer to augment our existing system for prevention and response. Please know that we are committed to this task and take very seriously our duty to provide a safe, welcoming school environment that is conducive to learning. It is certainly what you and your family deserve. Enjoy your summer break. That's from Dr. Hart. I took a moment to talk to the students today and let them know that things that they saw on social media were not acceptable, and that this school district, this high school, would not accept violence in any way, and it would be dealt with. I also told them what I have observed over and over here. 90% of our students, at least, if not more, are involved in working hard when they come through. The gains that have been made on the ACT in this year alone and the years previously show that the students are doing the work. The reduction in incidents are something that also shows good things are going on in the high school. But we have to make sure that what's going on that is going well continues in the right direction, and that our students and our parents and our community know that we are a safe school. And the only way to do that is to make sure we continue to reduce incidents, and we do not accept physical violence. The students weren't happy, I guess, to hear part of it at the beginning, but by the time we ended, they understood and they were moving. At least it sounded like, in a positive way. And we're going to continue to build programs to make sure that we're wrapping around to take care of those people that we have incidents with, and again, making sure that they understand we will not accept physical violence at our high school. We had a second item come to our attention. I put a handout in front of all of you. It says TIF, missing one F, 5, Development Opportunities and Challenges. It's basically a presentation that went to the village of University Park a few days ago. It is talking about the new interchange and an opportunity for development there, and how we could help spur business. And they would like us to consider extending TIF number 5 an additional 12 years. And I told the developer that I would make sure that the board had a chance to see this, a chance to talk about it. But I also told them that I had a finance discussion today with our assistant superintendent of finance, and she had some questions and some concerns, and I would make sure that the board knew about those questions and concerns. And if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to pass the mic over to Dr. Williams.
In reviewing the materials that were presented, it seems that this organization would like to extend the TIF to the 2019-2020 year. I have a couple of concerns as it relates to this request. My first concern is relating to the annual reports on TIF activity in the village of University Park. I have requested the past few annual reports from the village administrator. I requested that back in September of 2014. I have not received them to date. I also followed up with the village administrator as it relates to a request made by my predecessor, Mr. Gruce, back in December of 2013. I'm sorry. There was a request made to share in some of the surplus TIF dollars. And I followed up with the village administrator in October and November of 2014, and I have not heard back from him in reference to that request as well. Because I do not have any idea on the status of the existing TIFs and the available surplus or lack thereof, I would not be comfortable extending or recommending an extension of TIF 5. Additionally, if the Board of Education were to consider extending or supporting the extension of that TIF, it would be my recommendation that there would be an additional agreement that a portion of the increment would be shared with the district on an annual basis.
So the clarity on this, my understanding is the extension is so that a project can be brought to that area that would include restaurants and businesses on that exit. And that project is not estimated to be completed until 2019-20. And our extension would be, let me be clear, it's not us making the decision on an extension. That's not what we're asking. Apparently, to get the extension, or to help get the extension, the developers or whoever the construction company is visiting all of the taxing bodies and asking for their support on the extension. To my understanding, they have gotten the support of the Village of University Park, and we are one of, if not the largest taxing body. So it would be if we decide to say we support the extension or not. So I just want to be clear on that. And to my understanding, again, it's the extension in order to provide incentive for the businesses to come to the area, which would then generate revenue for the school district. Is that correct?
I can't answer that because I haven't received the reports on the existing TIFs, so I don't know if there is money out there that could potentially be returned to the district.
If we bring businesses to the, you're shaking your head, Mr. Brown.
Well, I'm just saying, I mean, that's the purpose of the TIF, that money doesn't come to the school district, it stays within that TIF area.
Until it expires?
Until it expires. That's the purpose. That's what they want to do. Right. And yes, we do not have a say, we have a say-so, but it doesn't have much substance. They're going to go for it if they want to go forward. We can ask for a percentage, which we will do, a percentage of the revenues that's collected. We will ask for a percentage of those revenues come back to the school district. But here's an opportunity for us to look not only at University Park, but Crete as well as Monee TIFs, see where we are with those TIFs. I believe Crete had a TIF extended a couple of years ago, and I'm glad University Park at least gave us the opportunity for some buy-in to speak on it, because a lot of times we don't really get the opportunity to plead our case. So I would like to see what's out there as far as surplus in Monee, as well if there's any surplus TIF money in Crete. So if you can bring that back to the Finance Committee. All the TIFs is out there in the 3 villages, and just when they expired, which ones was extended in the recent years. But again...
So this is not anything that's abnormal. Oftentimes it's requested to extend TIFs.
Yes.
And you're saying no because of University Park's previous history with not giving you information about TIFs. So you're saying don't support this because of that?
At this point.
She's saying she has some concerns.
Yeah.
I think that was important that we say, And I think it was important for us to make sure that our finance person got a chance to tell you what those concerns were. I asked her to be ready to tell you those concerns.
Absolutely.
The choice of what we do is, as you know, in the hands of the board as we go. And one of the things that I was told by the people that were here tonight is they're trying to lump this in with another bill that's going
Senate Bill
in
1222.
so that they can actually get this done in the next, probably they would need to know if we were going to be willing to support by Monday next week.
By
Now,
May 31st, because that's technically
Well-
the last day of legislative session.
They said that when we were talking, but they were talking about, is Monday the 31st? No, Monday's not, they're talking about Monday of this week coming up. They need to know.
Monday's cut off is 31st.
Yeah, well,
May 31st.
they asked for a little more.
I think we
I
can
guess
get us, try to get the information if they need this to go forward.
They're asking for a fairly quick turnaround.
Because what's going to happen is that if we have any opportunities to get a portion of that TIF and we chose right now to not support it, we lose that opportunity. So whatever information you do not have, I just think it behooves us to try to get that information. I don't know what you're lacking at this point, what information you're not getting from University Park.
I've received nothing from University Park.
Okay. So
Yeah,
maybe,
Wouldn't, because they have a transition.
Well,
in
they're in
process.
the middle of the transition right now, I would say. But I guess for me, for you, Dr. Williams, if you're saying, that's why I want to be clear. If you're recommending to not support this because you have a history of not getting information from University Park, I would rather have more of a support based on you've looked at this and you have a reason to not support it because of the depth of it. You see what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying, but without the financials for the other TIFs, I don't feel that I can make a recommendation to support it.
Okay, so what do we need?
that should be, I don't know, if
further
you need to make a call, like
information.
as early as tomorrow.
We'll
The
continue to make calls and
superintendent,
try to
yeah.
find to get some information, and
know.
I'll even see if I can get a meeting with the mayor. But what they've asked for is a letter of support, and we don't need to take a vote or anything else. This is new business. We wanted to make sure all of you had the information in your hand, and that finance got a chance to tell you what their concerns were before we move forward.
And we can go forward with a letter of support if it has some type of contingent placeholder in it saying we would support this if we get the information and it's to our liking, I guess. We'll leave it to you. You are expert, Nate, with the finance. So we'll leave it to you. If you get the information and you like what you hear, I don't see a problem moving forward with the support. Again, if
And
we
again, it's
support it or
just-
not, they're going to move
Right.
forward with it.
It is,
So it's just,
leverage is
yeah.
and really, how it was explained to me was just a letter of support. Basically them as a courtesy for themselves, coming and saying, "Hey, can we get your support? Because if I get a letter, it may make it pass." So, and then I do know that Senator Toy Hutchinson is supporting this. I believe she's one of the sponsors on the bill itself. So, whatever information we need to get, I know they must have had to leave. They were going to try to present this evening. Whatever information we can get to know more about this TIF and the options that can be given to, the information that can be given to the board to decide if we want to offer a letter of support or not.
Starting tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
I think
and-
they're open right now. Call.
While we're doing that, because we've had this conversation before, and I thought we were dealing with some ongoing requests to have a constant dialogue, because I want to know about all these TIFs, where they stand, not just for one village, because maybe if we had this information, and I understand, because I know you've been working on it, but I think it's going to be incumbent. It's a time-sensitive situation. So I'd like to know the update on how they're responding to you and or if not, and as far as what TIFs are outstanding, all of that, but just the update. Because I think every time we talk about finance, money that we could utilize. So if we know what we can expect and when, we can better budget, if you will, or lack thereof, based on what we know we might be getting, should be getting, et cetera. So, and again, there's so much conversation and dialogue about the community coming together. A mayor, their village, you just said the staff, somebody should be forthwith about presenting this information, because at the end of the day, it is going to either improve our schools or not. The only other thing I wanted to ask, too, is in the finance meeting, you talked about something that, not something, but the village of Crete wanted us to support. Can you address that at this time, the follow-up to that?
That was the gas issue, I believe, right?
The fuel disbursement system.
I'm sorry, I missed part of that. Dr. Hall asked.
So you guys were chit-chatting?
We're guilty.
I was just asking for the follow-up that we had requested in the finance meeting concerning the gas request, fuel request, reimbursement, was it?
Yeah, it was a fuel reimbursement, and I thought we sent out an email on
Yes, we sent out an update, but I can.
So, but nothing to this date? No additional to this date?
I've received a response from Mr. Einhorn's office regarding some of the follow-up questions that I had. There is no intergovernmental agreement that exists. There was a letter that was from the village to the school district trying to clarify the relationship for the fuel disbursement or the fuel purchasing system. So there is no documentation to support that we are actually 20% and the village is, I believe it was 74%.
So is the proper process to have an intergovernmental agreement, not just a letter that says that's 100 years old?
Yes, that is actually what my recommendation will be to the Finance Committee, that this is added to the list of intergovernmental agreements that we would like to have drafted.
Okay. Appreciate it.
No problem.
Okay, thank you. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Sanders, second by Mrs. Galbraith. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say nay. We are adjourned.
Yes, ma'am.